Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session on accounting for foreign currency transactions as per Accounting Standard 11, which is revised with effect from 1st of April 2014. Now, in this session, in next few minutes, we are going to discuss the basics of Accounting Standard 11 as it is expected for undergraduate students. So we'll be discussing some of the basics along with the accounting implications for Accounting Standard 11 if the transactions are entered into a foreign currency. Let's move on to the further details now. Let us begin with what is covered by Accounting Standard 11 or what is the scope of Accounting Standard 11. It applies to the transactions in foreign currency, including forward exchange contracts. So basically, if you enter into a transaction which is in foreign currency or is in the nature of a forward exchange contract, then it is covered by Accounting Standard 11. Let's have some examples as to what kind of forex transactions are covered. Number one, any purchase or sale of goods or any purchase or sale of services where the price is denominated or fixed in a foreign currency. Suppose you are an importer. You purchase the goods where the supplier is in US and you are going to pay the purchase price in US dollars. Then this is the transaction covered by Accounting Standard 11. If you are an exporter of goods, suppose you export the goods to European nations where the price is fixed in euro. In that case, such transaction will also be covered by Accounting Standard 11. If you are borrowing any money or if you are lending any money where the amount is denominated in foreign currency, then even that amount, even that transaction is covered by Accounting Standard 11. If you have any unperformed forward exchange contracts, those are also required to be accounted for as per the provisions of Accounting Standard 11. And finally, if you acquire any assets or if you dispose of any assets or if you incur any liabilities for the sale and if you want to settle the amount receivable for disposal of assets, etc., where all such amounts are denominated in foreign currency, then such transactions will also be covered by Accounting Standard 11. So this is broadly what is the scope of Accounting Standard 11. Then we need to also consider the transactions which are excluded from the scope of AS 11. Number one, if there is a restatement of financial statements from its reporting currency into another currency for the purpose of user convenience. Let us understand this from the in very simple words. Suppose you are an Indian company and you are preparing your accounts as per the Companies Act 2013. Your accounts are basically prepared in Indian currency. Suppose you are the 100% subsidiary of a US based company. And for a particular year, US based company says you have already prepared your accounts in Indian currency. We want to have these accounts translated into equivalent US dollars. So what you are expected to do? Take the copy of accounts which are already drawn up in Indian rupees, convert all the amounts into foreign currency, that is US dollars, on the basis of given rate of exchange and prepare the accounts for reporting purpose. Now here, this is merely restatement of financial statement from its reporting currency, which was Indian rupees, into another currency, which is US dollars, for the user convenience. Such transaction is not covered by AS 11. Then, presentation of cash flows in foreign currency, it is not covered by AS 11. It is under the purview of AS 3, which deals with cash flow statements. Similarly, Accounting Standard 16 deals with borrowing cost or interest, and therefore payment of interest and related issues are governed by AS 16 and not AS 11. So these are some of the exclusions that we need to keep in mind when we apply the provisions of AS 11. Then the next question that we need to address is, when should we convert or when should we translate the transactions? There are possibly two scenarios that we have to look at. The first scenario, initial recognition of the transaction and immediate settlement of the transaction is happening on the same day. What does it mean? Suppose today you have imported goods worth rupees 1 lakh US dollars from a supplier based in US. Today you received the consignment and on the same day you remitted back 1 lakh dollars to your banker. So here there is an initial recognition and immediate settlement on the same day. So you have to translate the transactions for initial recognition and immediate settlement, even if it is happening on the same day, by applying the appropriate rate of exchange. In some cases, it is possible that you have to account for the transaction in different stages, as and when different milestones have reached. So let us take one such example. Let's say today you have exported goods worth rupees 1 lakh US dollars to your customer in the US. Today is the date of transaction. You will translate the transaction as per the rate applicable for conversion today. Suppose for next few months, you did not receive the money for this sale transaction, for this export. Now we are at the end of the year, that is 31st March 2021. And on 31st March 2021, the amount is still outstanding from the customer. Again, you have to translate the amount of dollars, amount of outstanding money at the given rate on the date of balance sheet. Suppose after March 2021, let's say in April 2021, you receive the money from the customer. Again, on settlement, when you receive the amount, the transaction is expected to be translated on the basis of ruling rate of exchange on the date of settlement. So you may have a situation where the transaction is recognized and settled on the same day, and the translation happens on the same day, or it is recognized in different stages, and accordingly the translation happens based on different milestones, based on different stages which are considered for the transaction. Now, whenever you recognize the transactions in foreign currency and whenever translation happens, there is a possibility of foreign exchange gain or loss. Why should we have this foreign exchange gain or loss? The reason is very simple. Today you exported the goods worth rupees 1 lakh dollars. Today's rate of dollar is 72 rupees per dollar. When you receive the payment, let's say 1 month down the line, it is not necessary that the dollar rate will remain 70 rupees per dollar. It may change to 69, and in that case, you will incur a loss of 1 rupee per dollar. If it goes to 72 rupees per dollar, then you will probably gain 2 rupees per dollar. So these kind of foreign currency differences will either lead to gains or losses. On translation of these transactions, you may have to face the situation where you will have either gains or losses, and these will have to be transferred to profit and loss account as per the requirements of Accounting Standard 11. The next question that we have to address is, which are the transactions which we need to translate, and are there any transactions which we should not translate? And the answer lies here. AS 11 categorizes the items in two categories. It calls them as monetary items and non-monetary items. The monetary items will require a translation. Non-monetary items will not require a translation. What are the examples of monetary items? If you are holding any foreign currency notes, or if your balance in bank accounts which are denominated in foreign currency, your balance due from debtors or balance payable to creditors, or loans which are either payable or receivable and are denominated in foreign currency. All such monetary items will require a translation. Whereas The items like stocks, inventories, fixed assets, capital balances, investment in equity shares, etc. These are non-monetary items and therefore these will not require any kind of translation. So when we do the accounting, we need to distinguish between monetary items that require translation and non-monetary items which are not a subject matter of translation. For conversion or for translation, what kind of rate is expected to be used? For monetary items, when the initial recognition is happening, on that day, the ruling rate will be applicable. If you are translating the transaction on balance sheet date, then the rate on that day will be applied. And if you are looking at the settlement phase, then whatever is the ruling rate on the date of settlement, that will apply. However, for certain items, you may apply expected realizable value principle if the situation so demands. What does it mean? Let me give you an example. Suppose you have some business outside India, and in that country where you're doing this business, you have a bank account where some money is lying in foreign currency. Suppose that particular country has some economic problems and there are restrictions on flow of money from that country to any other destination. So it's something like your money is temporarily frozen in that bank account in that country. We do not know when the country will allow that money to be withdrawn. In that case, you may have to find out what is the expected realizable value and account for the transaction accordingly. But for non-monetary items, these are always carried at historical cost or fair value. For example, items like fixed assets, non-monetary item, historical cost, items like inventories, fair value, which is basically the principle applied in valuation of inventories of stocks. Now we are using certain terms in AS 11. Which are those terms? Let us understand those terms. So, first is a reporting currency. Reporting currency is the currency which is used in presentation or preparation of your financial statements. When an Indian company prepares its financial statements in Indian rupees, it's called as a reporting currency. And what is a foreign currency? It is a currency other than reporting currency. So for an Indian company which is preparing its financial statements in rupees, Indian rupees, any other currency will become a foreign currency. What do you understand by exchange rate? It is the ratio of exchange for two currencies. When you say, if you want to buy $1, you have to pay 70 rupees per dollar. Your exchange rate is 70 in this case. Closing rate is the rate on the date of balance sheet. So when you want to translate the foreign currency transaction on the date of balance sheet, the rate you apply is known as a closing rate. And a fair value is the amount for which an asset could be exchanged or liability settled between willing parties having complete knowledge of transactions carried out at arm's length. This principle is applied, fair value principle is applied when you want to consider the value of non-monetary items like closing stock. So when we apply AS 11, these are some of the technical terms that many often are used in understanding AS 11. With this, we begin with the accounting entries for such kind of transactions. Let's begin with import purchases. Whenever you purchase the goods, the entry is import purchase account debit to supplier account. So whatever is the foreign currency amount multiplied by exchange rate, the value of the transaction will be established on this day. This is the initial recognition of the transaction. Now, whenever you make the payment to a supplier, we pass the entry supplier account debit to bank account. Same entry will appear here, except the fact that due to foreign exchange fluctuation, you will either have a loss or a gain. Whenever you have a loss or a gain, the loss is debited to foreign exchange fluctuation account. If there is a gain, that will be credited to foreign exchange fluctuation account. So while making the payment, you have to account for this loss or gain as the case may be. End of the year, suppose there is outstanding balance of supplier. Then we have to apply the year-end rate, find out whether there is a rate difference, and if there is a loss or if there is a gain, that will have to be accounted for. If there is a loss, entry will be foreign exchange fluctuation account debit to supplier account. If there is a gain, the entry will be supplier account debit to foreign exchange fluctuation account. At the end of the year, whatever is the final gain or loss, that should be transferred to profit and loss account. So if you are transferring gain, the entry will be foreign exchange fluctuation account debit to profit and loss account. These were the entries for import purchases. Suppose you are an exporter, you are exporting the goods outside India. Whenever you export the goods, that is initial recognition of the transaction, entry will be customer account debit to export sales. When you receive the amount, the basic entry will be bank account debit to customer account. Again, here also, there is a possibility of either gain or loss. If there is a gain on the transaction, it gets credited to foreign exchange fluctuation account. If there is a loss, I'm sorry, that loss will be debited to foreign exchange fluctuation account. For example, when you exported the goods, the dollar rate was 70. When you receive the amount, if the dollar rate is 72, you are making a gain. If the dollar rate is 68, you are making a loss. So such amounts will have to be considered when you account for remittance or receipt of amount from the customer. Suppose you have customer balance outstanding towards the end of the year. Again, you have to apply the foreign exchange rate at the end of the year, find out if there is a loss or there is a gain, and that will have to be accounted for. If there is a loss, the entry will be FX fluctuation account debit to customer account. And if there is a gain, the entry will be customer account debit to FX fluctuation account. Similar to import purchases, here also, if you have a net gain or loss at the end of the year, that will have to be transferred to profit and loss account. If you are transferring gain, the entry will be FX fluctuation account debit to profit and loss account. So these are the entries related to export sales. Now let's keep in mind some key points which will help you when you do the sums on this particular topic. Let's take import purchases. There is an initial recognition of the transaction on the date of purchase. Subsequently, if the foreign exchange rate or currency rate has increased, exchange rate has gone up, it will result into a loss. Subsequently, if the foreign exchange rate has decreased, it will result into a gain. In case of export sales, if there is a increase in the foreign currency rate, it will lead to a gain. And if there is a decrease in foreign currency rate, it will result into a loss. So any exchange loss or gain will depend on these kind of situations. If you have borrowed money in foreign currency and at the time of repayment, suppose the foreign exchange rate has gone up, it will result in a loss. And if the foreign exchange rate has decreased, it will result into a gain. If you have given a loan in foreign currency, subsequent to your lending, if there is a increase in the rate at the time of repayment, when you receive the repayment, it will result into a gain. And if there is a decrease in currency rate or exchange rate, it will result into a loss. So when you do the sums, you can keep in mind these logical possibilities, and accordingly you can cross check whether the accounting by you for loss, gain, as the case may be, is correctly done or not. So these were some of the concepts related to accounting standard 11, accounting for AS 11 with reference to purchase, sale, or those kind of transactions. I hope this session was useful for you. If you have any comments or if you have any suggestion, you can please write a mail to caprasanna.tambe@gmail.com. If you have found this lecture useful, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You will receive further updates as and when more and more videos related to accounts, accountancy, income tax, etc. are posted on this channel. Thank you very much once again for listening to this session.